Hello and welcome. This is James Blanchard Cisneros at your service. Today I'll be reading the June 1st Daily Inspirational Message, the condensed version. It's 2 paragraphs long. Then I'll center myself, say a little prayer, and then make a couple comments on the message. And if you find the message of use, please be so kind as to like the video and subscribe if you really like it. Thank you for that. Here we go, the title. Being grateful for both the darkness and the light. Paragraph 1. Today, let us not curse or condemn the darkness. The acts of cursing and condemnation are not in alignment with our eternal loving essence and nature. Instead, let us recall that because God is love and all, even the darkness can and will be used by God to aid in our growth, healing, and awakening process. If the darkness can be used, then it is useful. If it is useful, then gratitude, not judgment, is the appropriate response to it. Just as the light naturally unites us with God, so too can the darkness when it is used for good. In its own unique way, the darkness, when used properly, can help us better represent our old loving source here on earth. When we can learn to use the darkness to rediscover the light within, it is then that you realize that each and every moment is a gift from God to you. Paragraph 2. Today, let us learn to catch the dark thoughts when they're trying to enter and rule over our mind. Then let us use them to trigger in us a desire to search for and replace them with their opposite. In essence, we use the darkness as a tool to help awaken us to the ever-present availability of the light within. This way, we learn to use even the darkness for good. Imagine a life where you no longer judge yourself or others for simply being lost in the dark. Imagine seeing the darkness as just another tool God uses to help redirect you towards your light. Now, even the darkness becomes another sacred step and tool on your path to helping you represent love on earth. All right. Being grateful for the darkness and the light. Okay. Today I'm going to make 5 points that I hope will assist both of us in the implementation of this message. All right. Point number 1. Remember, when the ego has programmed us to act in a certain way, and it's in a way that helps support its darkness, its delusions, its fairy tales and deceptions and lies as true. And so whenever you experience what you perceive as some error in judgment of self or others, some mistake, some sin, the ego has programmed you to judge, to condemn, to be angry at, to be resentful at others or even yourself, because we're all one. And so the ego might trick you into thinking that they're them and you're you. But whatever it is that you think of them, it either heals or poisons you. And so remember, when the ego is projecting outwards and saying, no, they're to blame, they made the error, the mistake, the sin, judge them, condemn them, be angry at them, be resentful at them. Who sinks deeper into the darkness? You do. Because all those thoughts, all that darkness has to flow through you first. And you can only recognize the darkness out there if you're viewing the world through the darkness lens, through the dark lens of the ego's past programs. And remember, there's only 2 mindsets in reality. And in reality, there's just one. But, okay, in duality, in this world, well, let's say there's oneness, which is love and God and all. And let's call this duality, where there seems to be an opposite to love. But because love is in reality all, this ego's programming where it tries to represent the opposite of all, of love, of the darkness. I'm sorry, of the light. It seems to make it real. So our job is simply to bring oneness into duality, to help lead our brothers out of duality into oneness. Okay, that was a long point number one. But the point of number one is that the ego, remember, the ego always tries to drive you, guide you into darkness, because that's the way it survives and thrives, through you, by taking control over your mind, creating its own lens. And so that way you view the world through the ego's lens, and that way the ego gets to survive and thrive through you, because it's in control of your mind. And if it's in control of your mind, then it's in control of your thinking and your life, and you are a zombie. That's okay. We'll get through that. Okay, that's point number one. A bit long, but that's okay. Point number two. There's a verse in the Bible. It's Matthew 15:14, I think. And a part of it is, if a blind man, will you allow a blind man to lead the blind? If a blind man leads the blind, will they not fall both into the pit or into the ditch? Forgive me for butchering that. So yeah, if a blind man guides a blind man, they both fall into the ditch, right? And so if the ego's mindset guides you, you both fall into the darkness. And the ego likes that. But the truth in you does not appreciate that. But today we're going to learn to be grateful for even that, okay? Because in point number two, we start to notice, okay, I no longer want the ego as my guide, because the ego only has me support the darkness as true. And I'm not the darkness. I'm not here to represent darkness. I'm not here to share darkness. I'm here to be the light of the world that God created me to be. And so when I'm representing darkness, I'm not doing what I was created to be. And therefore, I'm not fulfilling my mission as the light of the world. And so in point number two, simply remind yourself, okay, I'm viewing darkness here. I'm viewing mistakes, sins, errors as real. I'm judging, I'm condemning, I'm being angry, I'm resentful, simply because the ego is guiding me. Not because the truth in me is seeing what's really there. It's because the ego has control over the lens I see the world. Okay, that's point number two. Point number three, the opposite almost of point number two. We don't want the ego as our guide. We want God as our guide. If you're a Christian, the Holy Spirit or Jesus as your guide. If you're something else, perfectly fine. Whoever else you do highly respect, Buddha, etc., that can be your guide. And the idea is love can be your guide. And so you want to practice responding to the moment with love. Pardon me, let me bring up the post again for a second. Okay. So you see the ego says darkness. Okay, how can we use the darkness to come back to the light within us? All we do in point number three, by inviting God to guide us, is to do the opposite of what the ego recommends, okay? So when the ego says to you, judge yourself or others, when the ego says to you, condemn, when the ego says to you, be angry at them or yourself, when the ego says, be resentful towards them or yourself, what is the ego doing? It's just trying to convince you that you're unworthy of God. Because how can somebody who sins, who makes mistakes, who makes errors, who judges God's creations, who condemns them, who's angry, who's resentful, how could that person be a part of a perfect God? In the ego's world, it will try to convince you of that. But you see, anytime you're using the ego's tools, you're using in truth nothing real. So God doesn't judge you for using nothing real. God doesn't judge you for dreaming Okay? Would you judge your child, your own child, for dreaming, for having a nightmare and thinking it's true? Or just, pat him on the shoulder, send him some love, and make sure that he's okay or she's okay. Okay, so and point number 3, all we do is practice answering the darkness with the light. Answer the darkness with the light. Answer judgment with forgiveness. Answer condemnation with compassion. Answer anger with mercy and resentment with grace. Because all you're doing is answering the darkness with the light. And so you use the darkness not to punish yourself or others, not to sink deeper into the swamp. You use it to trigger in you the memory that you're here to be the light of the world. And so thank you, darkness, because when you were judging, that just triggered in me the response that I'm here to forgive in this moment, to forgive. Thank you, condemnation and ego, thank you, ego, for condemning, because that's all is triggering in me right now is that I'm here to offer compassion in this moment. Thank you, anger and resentment. Thank you, ego, for making me see anger and resentment, because you know what? All that is doing is helping me remember that I'm not here for that. I'm here to offer mercy and grace to my brothers and sisters in this moment, because that's what God created me to do in this moment. That's what God is asking me to do in this moment. God put me in this moment because he knows that I can be that light in that moment. He trusts me. So if God trusts me, why would you doubt yourself? Why would I doubt myself if I know that God trusts me? That God put me in this moment specifically to turn darkness into light. And that's what God put you in every moment for. It doesn't matter if the ego takes control for a second. Stop it. You know where that leads you. Know where you want to be. Stop it. And remember, okay, I can be grateful for the darkness. How can I be grateful for the darkness right now? Oh, because the ego was telling me to judge this person or myself. But I'm not here for that. I'm here to offer an expression of that love, of that light. And that expression in this moment right now is the act of forgiveness. So I'm here to forgive my brother or myself in that moment. And by doing so, I return to the light in me, and I return to doing what I came here and was created to do, to be the light of the world. So that's along point number 3. Sorry for that. Okay, point number 4. Okay, now we're using the darkness, and we're seeing how we can make it useful. If we can make the darkness useful to help us grow, heal, and awaken, wouldn't the proper response to the darkness be gratitude instead of putting others or self down for being in the darkness? No, thank you. Thank you for helping me practice that I don't belong there. I don't belong supporting the delusions of the ego as true. I don't belong supporting the ego's fairy tales. I belong aligned with my true essence and nature, my true eternal essence and nature, which is the light and love of God. And so now we use the darkness we see the darkness as a useful, because now it just triggers in us the memory that we're here to be the light. So knowing that the darkness is actually useful, that God uses everything, that God being perfect love uses everything for good, everything to help us heal, grow, and awaken, gratitude now becomes our only response to the darkness. When others judge us, thank you. I forgive you. I forgive myself for even thinking about judging you. And so I use the darkness to trigger in me the memory that I'm here to be the light of the world. So that's point number 4. Gratitude to the darkness because of its usefulness. And the last point is simply to take each opportunity when you find yourself being guided by the ego, but guided by the darkness, simply to practice recognizing quicker and quicker when you're there. So you can stop it sooner and sooner, so you can spend less and less time in the darkness, judging your brother and sister, condemning them, being angry at them, being resentful, or being angry at yourself. And so you see, the more times you can practice going from the darkness to the light, from the darkness to the light, the less time you will spend in the darkness. Because the more time you spend here, the more you see that, yes, it is here that I belong. I belong aligned with the light in me. And so in point number 5, that's all we do. That's all we use darkness for, is to practice returning to the light within us and being and sharing the light with our brothers and sisters. And so thank you, darkness, for helping me practice. You're just helping me practice. And the more I practice, the less time we spend in the darkness. And the more time we spend aligned with the light in us and sharing our light, sharing our forgiveness, our compassion, our mercy and grace. And so that's point number 5. Video a little long. I apologize for that. But I hope that helped you see how even the darkness can be used for good when you align your mind with the mind of God. And so let us practice doing that today. Thanking the light as always, but now thanking the gratitude too, because thanking the gratitude. Thanking the darkness too, because this is helping us remember that we don't belong there. We belong here, all together, aligned with the light within and sharing this light with the world. All right, enough. Thank you so much for your time. I love you very much. If you can be so kind as to like this video, it would help with the listening process, and it might help somebody be able to see that they can even thank the darkness, because God, being perfect love, will use us all for good. And now you can see a little bit more how we can even use the darkness for good. And if we spend all this time thanking the light and now thanking the darkness, how much time is left to sink in the ego swamp? It's no longer necessary. Now gratitude becomes our response. Okay, take care. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.